My stepsister has been living with my fiance and I for the past few months because she lost her job due to COVID and couldn't afford an apartment anymore. She has 2 children, 3 females and 1 male, who are also living with us. Last week, after the kids were asleep, we were having a few drinks. I went to sleep first because I had to be up early the next day. My fiance ended up waking me in the middle of the night to tell me my stepsister had kissed him. He said he pushed her away, but she seemed very drunk, so there wasn't much point. The next morning, I told her I wanted her to leave by the end of the week. She tried to pretend she didn't remember what happened, but eventually broke down crying and begging me not to kick her out. I did offer to let her kids stay. They moved out yesterday to my parents' house, which is way too small for all of them, and they've been harassing me since. My stepdad is also demanding I break up with my fiance because my stepsister told them he tried to come on to her. How do I get them to leave me alone? Do I even try to clear my fiance's name? The fact that OP's fiance told her immediately and her stepsister tried to lie about it speaks volumes. OP's parents don't like the inconvenience of having 3 additional people in their home. They're frankly not used to having young kids in the house 24/7 anymore. Plus, who knows what lies OP's stepsister told her parents to make herself look like the victim. OP's parents would rather Opus be inconvenienced and without a fiancé than have to deal with Opus's stepsister and entourage. OP should tell whichever parent is hers what happened. And if they still won't back down, OP needs to tell them flat out, OP is not taking stepsister back, period. And she will not be breaking up with her fiancé, period. And if they continue in their insane requests, she may consider going no contact with all of them. They have no right to dictate OP's life. Story 2. Background. So about 3 years ago, my parents divorced, and then like 1 year later, my dad's new girlfriend moved into our house since June 2014. I feel like this was a little fast for her to move in, and this adds more tension, etc. to the house, but that's irrelevant. Also for background, our house is quite big. I have 4 siblings, 1 step-sibling. So, my dad and his now wife have claimed the formal living room at the front of the house as their own, and my siblings and I are not allowed in there, but my stepsister is. This room is always locked when they are not at home. Anyway, on to the problem. Last Christmas, my stepmother set up a Christmas tree in their formal living room. She decorated, etc. it herself, with my dad and stepsister, and we had no input into it. My siblings and I were confused about it, and then my dad was like, "It's not for you guys, it's for our room only." And then he got us another tree to put in the living room. This was fine and everything was fine, but there was a large difference in the quality and size of their expensive tree to our crappy one, but whatever. Their tree was making my siblings and I feel excluded from Christmas because it was like that tree was their dad, stepmom, stepsister, little family's thing, and we, siblings, were being excluded from Christmas. On Christmas Eve, my siblings and I went to our mother's house and came back in the morning. We got home and dad, stepmom, stepsister were laughing and opening presents in the formal living room while us siblings were locked out and sat in the family living room alone. How can I express to my dad their Christmas tree made myself and siblings feel very excluded from a family Christmas? He's quite a narcissistic a whole, but that's a story for another day and has said things in the past. Example, my wife isn't here for you guys. She's here for me only. She doesn't care about you. As a compromise, could I suggest having only 1 tree, or is that selfish on my part? Or am I blowing this dilemma out of proportion completely? I think OP's dad has made it quite clear. His wife is for him, not OP, and he likes it that way. It sounds to me like he has actively encouraged or even instigated this state of affairs because he doesn't want his wife's interest and loyalty divided. He doesn't want to share her or his new family with his other children. Not that unusual for a narcissist, actually, but this isn't likely to change. OP really doesn't want to get into a contest with a narcissist, especially not one that has power over her. And especially not over having a relationship with a woman who obviously doesn't care enough to challenge the status quo. I would just make my own little family with siblings and think of father and stepmother as housemates rather than family. Then, when OP is old enough, she gets out of there and helps her siblings do the same. Story 3. For some background information, I think it's important to know that a majority of my family has passed away. I have my brother and a few cousins left, but the rest are gone. My brother and I had always been close, up until a couple years ago. I think these factors contribute as to why everyone is so reluctant to see where I'm coming from. I just feel like I need some guidance from others to figure out if there's something worth salvaging or I'm right in letting go of this relationship. Right now, I'm very limited contact. About 2 years ago, my mother passed away. My brother was, and still is, living in one of my parents' properties and had moved his long-distance girlfriend in with him just before my mother died. I was living overseas at the time and decided to move back to my country after my mother's death. My brother offered to let me stay with him and I took him up on that for a few months before moving to another city. I got along with his girlfriend very well, but we didn't really interact much or hang out. I had met her once when I came home to visit my country before moving back permanently. It was the same then, so I wasn't shocked or bummed about it. I figured we just didn't click. But she made my brother happy, so whatever. After moving to the city I live in now, I came to visit my brother fairly often about a year and a half ago. My father had passed away about that time, and that's when a lot of issues began. The first major ones that stuck out were that his girlfriend threw a fit about not being allowed at meetings with our state attorney. This was something outlined specifically by our attorney, but she seemed to think that I thought she must be a gold digger. My brother began acting the same way, even though he knew firsthand that our attorneys required this, not one of us. I mostly ignored this, thinking it would blow over, until other things began to happen. Things started building up with a bunch of small incidents, but honestly, they seemed like gigantic waving red flags to me. For instance, my brother brought his girlfriend on a vacation we had with our remaining family, and she took the opportunity during this time to ask if my mother had any vintage jewelry, and kept saying she wanted antique pieces for herself. I was taken aback because my mother still died fairly recently and she didn't know my mother. My brother also inherited a lovely family heirloom diamond ring which she constantly complained about since the stone and style wasn't to her liking. I found both of these things especially insulting. Another small incident. Before my father died, he signed over his car to his cousin that was in need of a vehicle. My brother got really upset when he found this out because he said he planned on giving it to his girlfriend's mother. This is another thing that made me upset. He had already given away something that didn't belong to him, and even if it was left to us, he didn't talk to me about it. The last incident around this time had to do with my brother driving my deceased grandmother's car. It was badly hit while he was driving it and it was deemed totaled by the insurance company. I'm not sure how, but he ended up with the insurance payout for it. He cashed the check and kept it. When I brought up that money needed to be transferred back to the estate, I was met by both him and his girlfriend yelling at me. We were out to dinner and they were literally yelling, saying things like the money wouldn't be missing and that it could always be put back when someone asks for it. What? When I mentioned the annual tax audit for the estate, I was just told I had no idea what I was talking about. I spoke to my brother calmly and several times about enforcing boundaries with her after these occurrences. He always told me that was just how she is and that I needed to accept her as my own sister since they would eventually marry. He usually ended up getting really heated about it, so eventually I left it alone. I just stopped visiting unless I had a reason to for the estate. And when I did, I stayed in a hotel because there was always so much tension and aggression from them. Things have been significantly worse recently. Closing my parents' estate has been a very long, drawn-out process, but almost finished. Our attorney brought up that my brother and I should enter into a rental agreement for the house he resided in. We split annual expenses for it, and it was something that was suggested in the beginning. But at the time, my brother and his girlfriend were planning on moving to another city. We were still on good terms at that point, and I didn't see it necessary to set up a rental agreement since they would be leaving soon, and ultimately we would sell the house soon after. That never happened, and our attorney pressed us to set up a contract to ensure that the estate would not unfairly benefit one sibling more than the other at closing. I agreed at this point as I never saw them leaving, and I would still be expected to split expenses. Much like the car situation, they both blew up on me, asking if I really thought it was fair. To be honest, I pay for my own rent, and I don't really find it fair that they don't pay rent for a house I'm expected to shell out half for. We attended mediation with an additional attorney in an attempt to solve this. My brother yelled at me several times throughout the first and only meeting we had with this attorney. Needless to say, it was incredibly embarrassing and frustrating. In the end, there was no agreement, but they decided to buy out my half. This is still going on. The last straw had to do with an additional home my parents owned. My brother's girlfriend is a realtor. She had never sold a home, but I tried talking to her multiple times about the house to get her opinion. After all, it had been vacant for more than a year at this point. She always shut me down saying she was staying out of it and that we could use another realtor. Both attorneys we worked with suggested that we not use a friend or family member, and this was emphasized multiple times with our mediation attorney. My brother was insisting on using her, so the attorney suggested that I interview realtors on my own and bring my top choice to a meeting to do a presentation on this, services, and evaluation of the home. My brother's girlfriend would need to do the same. I spent time in their city again, conducting multiple interviews, and had my choice prepared and committed to the meeting. 4 days before the meeting, I got an email from my brother's girlfriend canceling the meeting, stating that I might as well have slapped her in the face and had insulted both her and her career deeply. To make it worse, she also said that I was ripping my family apart. Of course, they never notified the attorney, so I was left to do so. He was extremely irritated and declined to work with us again. I can't blame him. He went on to suggest I find a real estate attorney for myself to continue pursuing the situation on my own. After a lot of screaming at me, my brother finally let me handle everything related to this sale. The house has been sold, and I'm relieved that everything is almost severed. His girlfriend has recently taken to sending me nice texts. I never responded and also left me a sweet voicemail saying she wanted to explain herself. I'm over it. It's been nearly 2 years, and I just feel as if it is her new angle in an attempt to get something after she realized me wouldn't work. They both have had plenty of time to apologize or try to work things out, but never have. My biggest issue is that no one can seem to accept that I don't wish to be involved with either of them anymore. Yeah, it sucks that I have so little family, but I don't see that as a reason to keep such negative abusive relationships. My family and some of my friends are constantly trying to get me to repair things and often act like I'm being petty, even when they've seen how my brother has treated me. Everyone blames his girlfriend. And yeah, I agree that she has a lot to do with everything, but my brother is the one who allows and even encourages her to act in such a way. He himself acts that way now too. Am I truly in the wrong here? Should I try to fix this? If I'm not, how can I make my friends and my existing family understand that I just don't want to be involved anymore? In my opinion, OP is not wrong. Brother's girlfriend is a gold digger, and OP's brother should be shutting her down. Unfortunately, settling estates can bring out the worst in people. OP's brother and his girlfriend sound incredibly selfish and entitled. They expected OP to handle everything and get all the benefits of the estate, and reacted like children when OP was making adult decisions. I'd go no contact and not look back. As for the rest of his family, if they didn't notice their behavior, I'm not sure if OP can explain cutting them out in an easy manner. OP's best bet would be to explain the situation in person to them so they can see OP's emotions and possibly realize that her brother wronged her. Story 4. My mom gave a ring that belonged to my great-grandmother and was passed down through my family to my stepsister without asking me first if I wanted it. She told me this in passing. This ring is special to me. I remembered going through my mother's jewelry box as a child and playing with it. I've wanted it since then, and I always assumed that I would be the one to get it when I was older. My mom got remarried when I was in 8th grade. My stepsister never knew my great-grandmother and had never visited her in the nursing home when she was older. My mom asked me if I wanted her to get the ring back, and I told her no, because I would feel bad, and I would feel like I'm stealing from my stepsister since she already has it. I love my stepsister, and I have no hard feelings towards her because she did nothing wrong here. I don't want to stress our relationship, but I'm second-guessing my decision to tell my mom no because this ring has always meant a lot to me, and I'm honestly really torn up about this. I've always been the black sheep in my family, and this just feels like another affirmation of that. I kind of want to backtrack and say, yes, please, get it back. But I would feel really bad doing that, because my stepsister already has it. Am I being selfish or unreasonable? Are my feelings normal here? What should I do? OP's feelings are completely normal. Opus should tell her mother that she is very hurt, and she should do it right now. Mother probably doesn't realize how important the ring is to OP and in general. I think family heirlooms should be passed to blood relatives if there are such. Also, OP needs to mention the fact she feels like she always comes in last. Also, she should be prepared for her mom to dismiss everything, but at least OP will have stood up for herself.